This video on FPL TV is very proudly sponsored by OneFootball. With a rating of 4.8 out of 5 from now over 100,000 reviews on the App Store, OneFootball truly is the biggest and best app for football news, scores and stats from hundreds of leagues all over the world. As for FPL, you can choose to follow every team in the Premier League on OneFootball and then get live updates from all the goals and assists every game week. Download it now completely free using the link in the description box below. Hey guys, and welcome back to FPL TV. Before looking at how my side lines up for this weekend's Game Week 8, let's see how the team performed in the previous Game Week. With my squad heading into Game Week 7 with an array of injuries throughout the team, I opted to utilise the wildcard last week in the hope to get ahead of the curve with Chelsea and Man City assets and also hopefully start to climb the rankings. There was just one change I made from the wildcard video last week, with Christensen coming in for Azpilicueta about 1 hour before the deadline. A swap that couldn't have resulted in a much more sickening outcome. I told myself that both Azpilicueta and Christensen are realistically going to pick up similar points over the next few game weeks, and that neither of them offer too much attacking threat. So for a whole 1 million cheaper, I can bank the same clean sheet points from Christensen rather than paying the extra for the Spaniard. Therefore, it was a real gut punch to see Christensen get benched and then have Azpilicueta rack up 2 assists in a single fixture, something I could never have predicted. A seemingly small change at the time, but one that really affected the outcome of my game week, and it's these type of decisions that will always separate me from the top FPL managers. Chelsea conceded a penalty in that fixture, so no clean sheet for Rudiger either, and with Christensen missing out, in came Ruben Diaz with a solid 0-pointer off my bench, conceding 2 and getting booked. His teammate Cancelo also got booked in that fixture away to Liverpool, so a nightmare start all round for this new look defence. Granted, it was never my intention to have 2 Man City defenders away to Liverpool this week, which was always going to be a tough fixture, but still, pretty frustrating that they returned 0 points between them after 5 consecutive clean sheets in the previous games. In the early kickoff of Game Week 7, it was an absolute dream start for me, with the most captained player of the Game Week, Ronaldo, getting benched. Over 2 million players captained Ronaldo, so his 1-pointer off the bench was the perfect outcome for my wildcard squad. However, over the last few years, whenever an opportunity to climb the rankings presents itself, my captain 2 seems to let me down, and so was the case again this week with Lukaku blanking at home to Southampton, a golden opportunity missed. Chelsea scored 3 goals in that fixture with 0 Lukaku involvement, and he also missed an incredible chance late on, hitting the post from just yards out, which looked to be an easy tap-in. After that Ronaldo 1-pointer, I really thought I was in for a big green arrow this week, but it simply wasn't the case, and the wildcard ended in disappointment. Unfortunately, there were just 2 players that returned throughout the wildcard squad, with one of them being the ever-present Mo Salah. And as I've mentioned many times, despite enjoying his wonderful goal against Man City, in FPL terms his points don't really have an effect on ranking unless you captain him. The only other player to return last week was Raul Jimenez, and in a very low-scoring game week for many managers in general, his 2 assists and 2 bonus points were very welcomed. Elsewhere, it was blanks all round, with budget-friendly midfielders Saka, Rafinha and Benrahma all failing to deliver. Benrahma did come very close to scoring against his old club Brentford, a goal that would have also been an Antonio assist, so once again very fine margins, but it's just not happening for my team at the moment. The frustrations of Game Week 7 were really encapsulated by my budget defender Livramento away to Chelsea being the highest scoring defender last week, who I really didn't feel comfortable starting pre-wildcard. So for Game Week 7, it was a confidence-knocking 41 points on the wildcard. And unfortunately, despite being once again above the average score, it's another drop in the rankings. It feels a bit like Groundhog Day at this point, where week after week it's not a disaster, but constantly below the par score of those around me. And since Game Week 1, it's just been a slow and steady decline week after week. And even with the wildcard, I wasn't able to stop the rot. It is frustrating because for the majority of the game week so far, I've put out a squad that I've been pretty happy with, and yet I'm still unable to make progress, and every game week I'm feeling a sense of what could have been. Simply making that one change of Azpilicueta to Christensen before the deadline cost me 10 points, and surprisingly, those 10 points are the difference between 150,000 places in the rankings. That decision alone therefore really changed the context of my wildcard week, and all I can hope with that change now is that I can utilise that extra 1 million saved to gain those points back further down the line. On the positive though, it still shows just how close the rankings are at the moment, and one good game week can really erase all the frustrations over the last few. When using a wildcard, there's two things that you can hope for. One, to significantly improve on your game week score in respect to your old team, and two, to set up your squad better for future game weeks. And although I failed in the first, what I can still hope now is this new look squad can deliver over the next few game weeks. So let's see how the squad lines up now for game week 8, and hopefully this slow descent down the rankings can be put to an end soon. Also, if you enjoy the content here at FPL TV, then be sure to leave a like and most importantly get subscribed. You can also hit the notification bell so you always know when a new video goes live. Having just used the wildcard, and of course having looked ahead to the next few game weeks, I was once again heading into this game week with a lot of optimism about how the side shapes up. It is missing Alexander-Arnold, who does look to have been past fit for the game week, which always feels like a big hole. But I've still got 1.5 million in the bank to bring him back in a future game week when the time seems right. All I can hope there is that he doesn't go too big against Watford before that much tougher fixture away to United in game week 9. There are currently 2 injury concerns amongst the ranks, with both Lukaku and Rudiger flagged as 75%. But I really hope they're nothing worse than just precautionary, and it's just a way to manage them a bit during the internationals. The plan was to try and save a transfer this week if possible, so hopefully we can obtain a bit more information about these 2 before the deadline. On the day of recording this video, Rafinha has now too been flagged, and that's due to him playing an international game in Brazil just 36 hours before Leeds play Southampton. It'll certainly be frustrating should he miss that one, but he's a player I plan to keep for the long term now, so I'll just have to take that one on the chin. In a worst case scenario, if I were to save the transfer this week and then any of these did miss out, at least my bench for game week 8 is looking very strong, as I expect Christensen will probably come back in for this fixture against Brentford, whilst Livramento is a good option at home to Leeds as well. I have considered starting Christensen this week, even more so now with these new doubts over Rafinha starting. But the way Brentford are playing so far this season, a clean sheet for Chelsea is looking a lot more difficult than it did a few weeks back. As mentioned, at the very least, he should provide decent cover this game week should any of my starting 11 miss out. For the captaincy this game week, if I'm honest, I've not really considered anyone but Mo Salah throughout the international break. Granted, it is the early kickoff, which hasn't gone well for many managers so far this season, and a captaincy blank in the first kickoff of the game week is always a tough one to take. But if we remove emotion from the decision for a moment, it really feels like a no-brainer, with Salah really looking back to his absolute best so far this season, and now facing a Watford side who have just had a change in manager, not to mention the Egyptians' fantastic record against them. The 2 worst defences so far this season are Norwich and Newcastle, both having conceded 16 goals apiece and 20 big chances, but considering I've got no players facing those, makes the decision all the more easier. A clean sheet for Man City does look likely at home to Burnley, but that's not enough for me to move the armband away from Mo Salah, who will no doubt be captained by a huge amount of managers this week. So that's how my side currently lines up, but as mentioned, if there are any updates with regards to the severity of injuries to Rudiger and Lukaku, then that of course could change my plans a little. If I do make any late transfers, then of course I'll post it over on Twitter shortly before the game week deadline. Good luck to you all for the upcoming game week, FPL responsibly, and I'll catch you all very soon.